My name is John, and I work at the Center for Student Involvement and Leadership at JJay College. Today we're going to be talking about how to get in an NYC apartment in just 1 week. I do not recommend actually trying to get one in 1 week. The NYC housing market is extremely stressful. Make sure that you are giving yourself at least 30 days before your expected move-in date to find and secure an apartment. Before we start, who am I to be telling you how to move into an apartment in New York City? Well, just as a brief introduction, my name is John Salamak, and I am the evening coordinator for the Center for Student Involvement and Leadership at JJay College. I have a master's degree, somehow, in urban and multicultural education. Why am I telling you all this? Because I need to make it clear that I am not a realtor, and I have no professional experience in housing or real estate. I'm just a regular dude who needed a place to live, and he had no idea how to do it. Even though I'm not qualified to explain this, I do have a very crazy story to tell. And that story is how I moved and started my job at JJay in 1 week flat. On Wednesday, January 25th, I got a call saying that I got my job at JJay, and on Thursday, the next day, I accepted the job. From there, I had to find a place to live because my previous job paid for my housing. Over the next few days, I looked for, found, got approved, moved in, ate some chicken, and started my own new job. It was the most stressful time in my entire life, but I'm a proud person to say that I was able to pull that off. If I can do this with literally no prior knowledge, I guarantee you that you can do it. I cannot stress enough how clueless I was during this whole process. And that's why the purpose of this presentation is so you can know a little bit more about what to expect during the apartment hunt in New York City. So where do you even start? Well, first you should be deciding if you're leasing an apartment or if you're subletting. The processes are a little bit similar, but they're also very different. After that, you're going to want to go with a can or can't do list. The can-do list is a list of apartment amenities that are not necessarily ideal, but you could deal with them. On this page, you can see a few examples. Next, you're going to want to make a can't-do list, which are apartment amenities that you cannot accept under any circumstance. Again, here are a few examples. It's also worth noting now that you should be asking your broker or your landlord about ADA accessibility if that is a need of yours. Sometimes the apartment might be ADA accessible, but the complex isn't. Also, make sure you're doing your research on your neighborhood and make sure that you'll feel safe and welcome there. There are a lot of neighborhoods in the city that have a community of certain cultures and subcultures within them, so they may be up your alley more so than others. So after you've made your list, where do you really start? Well, of course, by finding an apartment. These are a few options on how to start viewing apartments. I personally used a broker, which is a licensed person who has access to many listings around the city. However, if you're using a broker, be careful because they can also charge you a broker's fee. We'll talk about broker's fees a little bit later. You can also use Facebook groups, phone apps, Reddit, or even just look around your neighborhood to see if there are any posters about open apartments on telephone poles, bulletin boards, and real estate offices. Now, these are a few examples of Facebook groups that are popular for leasing and subletting. The one that is highlighted at the top here has a lot of sublets in it, so if you're looking for that, you want to definitely check them out. Brokers will also post there too. There are also some examples below of ones that aim to create community living based off of a demographic or culture. So like I said, if you do your research, you can end up living with like-minded people. Now, most phone apps are owned by Zillow, and they have very similar listings across from them. But these three apps organize their listings differently and have different amenities attached to them. For example, PadMapper organizes everything by map, which can be super helpful if you want to live in a specific neighborhood. Naked Apartments allows you to chat with brokers and landlords while being completely anonymous. And Zumper has neighborhood statistics and can track rent trends based on neighborhoods. I didn't know about any of these, so I just used Street Easy, which is usually the go-to because it has a lot of criteria that you can use to narrow your search. For what it's worth, check out the Listings Project. It's not an app, but it's actually a website where you can sign up for a weekly email blast. I've had a lot of friends have a lot of success with it. It's usually considered a best kept secret of New York City apartment hunting, so make sure you check that out too. While you're searching for an apartment, make sure you read a book and know your terminology. A no-fee apartment means that you will not have to pay a broker's fee, which can be as much of or more than a month's rent. Sometimes you won't work with a broker, and sometimes the landlord will just pay the fee for you, hence no fee apartment. But always try to find these types of apartments first because you'll end up paying less money. Now, a guarantor is a co-signer for your apartment. These are people who are legally required to pay your rent if you are unable to. Typically, they make about 80 times the amount of your monthly rent. These are required in a lot of instances, especially if you don't meet some criteria for the apartment. Now, net effective rent is seen on a lot of apartment apps. This is the total amount of rent, including a promotional price. For example, rent for an apartment may be $2,500 a month net effective, because that first month is actually free. The rent actually ends up being around $2,650 because that free month is then spread out to the other months. Make sure you're doing your math correctly. You're going to see the term 40x a lot, and that means that your household must make over 40 times the monthly rent. If they don't, you will likely need a guarantor in order to be considered for approval. A pre-war building is one that was built between 1900 and 1939. They are known for their high ceilings and are very difficult to renovate. Most will have renovated appliances though. You can find pre-war buildings in areas like Bushwick and Washington Heights. They are usually typically very affordable. Now, you've been hearing me use the word sublet a lot. So sublets are apartments that are already leased by someone. So if you are a subletter, then you are paying the person who has the lease in their name rather than the landlord themselves. More often than not, sublets or short-term agreements. Maybe the tenant is out of town visiting family for a month, or maybe they're a college student who are going home for the summer. Let's say you found the apartment that you want. Make sure you are prepared with the following items. Most apartments require first month's rent as well as the security deposit. And a security deposit is about a month's worth of rent. This is used to fix anything that may be left over or damaged once you move out. Most of it is given back to you as long as you haven't destroyed your apartment or your landlord isn't super shady. Sublets will often ask for first and last month's rent depending on the length. Also, if you are going through a broker, make sure you are able to pay the broker's fee. All in all, sometimes you may have to pay almost 4 months worth of rent before you even move in. You'll also need a proof of income too. Pay stubs are another way to prove that you make the money that you say you do. If you don't have that, then you will definitely need your tax return, but you should have your tax return prepared regardless. Any and all government issued IDs are good to have copies of. Finally, reference letters from previous landlords, jobs, close relatives, etc. that can speak to how professional and respectful you are as a person. Try to get at least 2 or 3 of these. Now, if you need a guarantor for any reason, make sure you have all of this above info for them as well, including their notarized signature. In terms of subletting, a lot of times you're not going to need all of this information. Check with your tenant to see what they need, but it's usually just first and last month of rent upfront. Now, it's very important. Don't get discouraged if you do everything right and you still get rejected from an apartment. New York City housing, like I have said, is absolutely insane. And somebody may have submitted a perfect application 10 minutes before you. Keep looking. Do not give up. There are many landlords looking to fill their spaces, and many sublets are out there hoping that someone can offset their rent with them. Aside from all of that, here are a few tips to help you survive the apartment hunting process. Spring and summer are the most popular times to move because of the weather, so if you can help it, try moving in the fall or the winter. There's a good chance that your rent will be cheaper too. If you're moving with a pet, check with your broker or your landlord about how pet-friendly their apartment complex is. Sometimes they may only allow cats, or may only allow certain type of dogs, or that they have a weight limit on the animal that you're trying to move in with you. If you don't have 40 times the amount of monthly rent and you don't have a guarantor, even though that you can find online guarantor services, do not be discouraged. Talk to your broker or your landlord and see if you can offer an extra month of a security deposit. That's what I had to do. It's more money up front, but it does sweeten the deal. Now, if the apartment is a little bougier and they have amenities like laundry, a fitness center, a pool, maybe a dog park, something like that, those often come with fees that are included in your rent. Now, if you want to lower your rent, negotiate and see if you can get those fees waived in place of a lower rent. I cannot stress this enough. Take pictures during visits. This is to ensure that you get the apartment that you saw and not a similar one in the same complex. Also, if you notice anything broken during your visit, take pictures and timestamp them. That way, if they're still broken upon your move-in, you are not liable for them in any way, shape, or form. Never go to an apartment showing by yourself. Safety aside, you are going to make a sounder decision if you have someone there to bounce ideas off of. If that's not feasible, FaceTime somebody while you're there so that way you can talk to them about the decisions that you're about to make. Honestly, apartment hunting is fun, so make it fun. Bring a friend with you. If you are moving into an apartment and you already know that you are going to be moving furniture, this may sound silly, but take a tape measure with you. Your spatial reasoning is not going to be strong enough to figure out if your furniture is going to fit into that cubby or against that wall. Know what your stuff measures at so that you can fit them appropriately in your new apartment. So that really does it for this presentation. I hope you have a better idea of what you expect when you tackle the New York City housing market. Remember to stay calm, be realistic, and don't let up if you're rejected. If you have any questions that were not answered here, you can feel free to email me at jsalamak@jjay.cuny.edu. Thank you so much for watching, and happy apartment hunting.